There are few things that people love more than a list, good or bad, whether it's from BuzzFeed or a company blog or esports websites or even Riot themselves. In this video, we're gonna make the list to end all lists. The one and only, the top 10 best League of Legends players of all time. The playmakers, the meta definers, the hard carries, the absolute best of the best over what is now roughly a decade of competition. All here, all ranked. But first, we gotta talk about what a top 10 entails. If you just wanna head straight into the action, then we'll have some chapter marks for you to skip to. But if you haven't thought about how someone creates a top 10 best of anything, then you should start thinking about it. For as often as people talk about who's the best, there's not as much talk about how they determine who the best is, or what the best even means. The best could mean most dominant in one moment, most innovative, best micro, best macro, but the best usually includes all these factors, but their weight changes depending on who makes the list, which means that a top 10 list is inherently flawed, and that's part of the fun. It is literally impossible to create an objective top 10 list for most competitive sports. Eventually, you'll have to weigh different strengths, weaknesses, and wins, and the weight you give them gets pretty subjective. And all of this gets even trickier in a game like League of Legends, where you've got 5 players who are all responsible for each other's successes and failures, in ways that can be hard to notice. So, despite what we said earlier, don't think of this list as final. It's an opinion that should get your own train of thought started. Now let's talk about this list's criteria. These are the main factors the rankings are based on in no particular order. First, there are weighted results. It's not just how often a player wins or gets top 4, it's how hard their journey was. It's pretty vital to weigh results because otherwise, Sword Art and Karsa top the list because of their success in the LMS. Or we could improperly rank a Worlds run like KT Rolsters in 2018. Second, there's carry strength. How much does this player carry a team? How much pressure do they generate? How irreplaceable is this player? And can they carry with less resources? Are they a versatile player? Ideally, the best League of Legends players are flexible and can both lead and support their team's game plan. This criteria demands an eye check. We can get some ideas from stats, but they still won't tell the full story. Third, there's consistency. Were they a flash in the pan or an ever-burning fire? This metric is probably what's going to generate the most controversy. It's going to knock more than a few old-school favorites off the list. Mad Life, Dandy, and Wei Xiao may have fundamentally reshaped League of Legends, but none of them make the list because none of them were consistently at the top for multiple years. Consistency also means looking at a player's low point. If they took a fat paycheck to play on a worse team and it hurts their consistency, then that should hurt their legacy. Our main scriptwriter and researcher for this project also admits a personal bias towards consistent players over dominant ones. Fourth, there's the intangibles. In sports, intangibles are the things that don't show up on the screen at all. Forget stats, forget outplays. Can the player shot call? Can they rally the team after a heartbreaking loss? Can they become the reason other players join a franchise? Now, here are some things that this list doesn't weigh that heavily. Innovation. This list does consider innovation, but not too heavily, because that favors early era stars too much. Wei Xiao and Insec are innovators, but they played in an era where the game had more to uncover. Not to mention, it's pretty hard to know who's responsible for some innovations. We also won't weigh potential. Right now, there are a lot of young players who are on the cusp of breaking into the top 10, but haven't played long enough yet. Think of the likes of Caps, Jackie Love, and Ruler. None of them make this list, but if any of them win Worlds 2020 alone, they probably deserve to. Speaking of Worlds 2020, the writing and research happened prior to groups finishing, so we couldn't count it. Sorry, folks. And finally, we consider luck, but don't weigh it too heavily. No matter how much RNG you drain from the game, competition will always have an element of chance. This list will take things like unlikely injuries, brackets, and team situations into account. But a top player only gets lucky or unlucky so many times before it's just a thing. Coming in at number 10 is a 4-time LCK champion and 3-time world champion, Bengi. Bengi has weathered multiple metas, played many different champions, and helped all of SKT excel. earning him the nickname the right hand of God. Bengi is so accomplished that the question is why he isn't higher up. While Bengi's results are tremendous, it's hard to say he's ever consistently carried or been even second best player on SKT. Bengi didn't often lead in KDA or kill participation in his role, nor was he irreplaceable, as multiple times in his career he was subbed out for entire tournaments, sometimes resulting in SKT improving. In essence, Bengi was essentially League's best role player ever, akin to Klay Thompson or Dennis Rodman. Bengi had a specific job and did it insanely well. That's not easy and shouldn't go underestimated, but the other players on the list would regularly step up more on an individual level and provide more to their teams than Bengi, even if they won less. Coming in at number 9 is a player with an incredibly underrated legacy, G2's Perkz. This 22-year-old Croatian carry has steadily brought his team from challenger to contenders over 5 years. In terms of weighted results, it's hard to argue that he isn't the best in the West. With G2, he toppled the Fnatic dynasty in EU, winning playoffs an insane 8 times. Internationally, he gets the hard path but wins anyway, upsetting a world elite that went 7-3 in groups at MSI 2017, upsetting a tournament favorite RNG in Worlds 2018 quarterfinals, and winning MSI 2019 over an NA and LCK super team, and getting second at Worlds 2019 by beating Damwon and SKT. The main knock against Perkz is an incredibly bad international year in 2016. This was the famous year that G2 vacationed right before MSI. Since then, Perkz has only gotten better. Perkz also gains huge points in terms of intangibles for switching to ADC to make room for caps, and then becoming one of the best ADCs in the world. Perkz has consistently been willing to go to insane lengths to help G2 win, playing tons of champions, styles, and roles. He can carry when called on and play weak side when necessary. He is incredibly consistent, versatile, and clutch. In number 8, we have a true team-fighting legend, Bang. At points in 2015 and 2016, Bang was the best player on SKT. Bang often gets overlooked for lacking prowess in lane, but when it comes to teamfights, Bang was one of the best to ever do it. In summer 2016, he led the LCK in damage per minute over Faker. Through all of 2016's regular season and playoffs, he was top 3 in DPM, and at Worlds, he was first yet again. Bang has an insane eye for positioning, knowing when to play front to back and when to push forward and DPS the opposing carries. He and Faker formed perhaps the most enduring team-fighting carry duo ever, strong enough to make SKT the only team to ever win back-to-back Summoners Cups. Bang doesn't go higher on the list because of somewhat weak laning, and because he's faltered in recent years, with a rough 2018 on SKT and a much rougher 2019 on 100 Thieves. Bang still individually does well. He had the second highest DPM of any player in the 2020 LCS regular seasons, so the failures don't take him down too far. If you watched those Bang-era SKT games, then you probably know that Faker's true rival was one of the greatest top lane talents in League's history, Smeb. At his peak, Smeb was so good that he won back-to-back LCK MVP awards, 2 LCK trophies, and a Kespa Cup. He would have won more, but SKT was always standing in the way. SKT would knock Smeb out of 4 LCK playoffs and 2 World Championships. Given the caliber of his opponent, Smeb's silver medals are an accomplishment too, especially when Smeb and the Rocks Tigers often pushed SKT to the absolute brink. Their semi-final series at Worlds 2016 is still considered one of the best series ever played. The same goes for KT's battle against Invictus Gaming, where Smeb faced off against The Shy and Duke and only narrowly lost. Like Faker, Smeb is a very potent carry who can play multiple styles. He is one of only a handful of top laners who has equally memorable plays on carries and tanks. But Smeb's consistency is what's hard to rate. At his peak, he rarely lost to any player or team who wasn't at the absolute highest level. But outside of his 2015 to 2018 peak, that's far from the case. Smeb hasn't had a truly great split in 2 years now. Of course, Smeb shouldn't shoulder all the blame for what were team-wide flaws, but he hasn't looked that much better than his team. He also lacks any international wins, though that's particularly mitigated by weighing and the fact that he usually only loses to the champs. In 6th place is one of Smeb's teammates and one of League's most enduring veterans, Prey. Prey began his career in late 2012, where he quickly became known as one of the best ADCs in the world. For most of the next 7 years, he would keep that reputation. Prey has won 4 LCK trophies and has gotten second in 3 other LCK playoffs and 3 different major international events. And he hasn't done it in the way that other players on this list have. Prey wasn't necessarily the best in most things, but he was consistently up there in about every category. His laning and team fighting were both world-class for most of his career. If there was one thing that really put him above the other carries, it was his game sense. Prey excelled at utility ADCs because he knew exactly when and how to use big spells. And Prey also connected with his supports, more than most carries do, moving as a bot lane unit. In fact, over 7 years, Prey played with 3 supports: Kayn, Gorilla, and Snowflower. Prey and Gorilla were, in particular, a duo that nearly guaranteed a team's success in one of the toughest regions in the world. And like Smeb, Prey gets held back by a lack of international success. Prey was actually pretty unlucky internationally and got eliminated early by the world champion in 4 different worlds brackets. Prey has also had spots of inconsistency, like his rough 2014, but his insane ability to be everything you'd need in a carry makes him top 10. And speaking of a lack of international success, let's talk about Clearlove. Clearlove often gets overlooked for consistently falling short at Worlds, getting called a bad international player. But that's not fair to the world's original superstar jungler. Back in 2012, Clearlove was cleaning up international tournaments, beating Taiwanese, Korean, and European top teams, culminating in winning IPL 5, which honestly was more stacked than that season's Worlds. And then there's MSI 2015. In terms of weighing results, this tournament was a unit. Not only did EDG beat a very strong Fnatic in AHQ, EDG beat an SKT that dominated Korea right in the middle of the Korean Golden Age. Domestically, Clearlove has won 5 championships in one of the hardest regions in the world. He's come in second at 3 more, and none of this is counting the many Chinese and Eastern Asian tournaments he won prior to the founding of the LPL. Clearlove has enough success that not escaping quarterfinals at Worlds isn't his deepest flaw. The main reason you might not see Clearlove in other top 10s is because of his style. Clearlove was notorious in the WE days for power farming the jungle, letting Messiah control the map, then showing up to destroy the team fight behind Wei Xiao. Clearlove hasn't ever been known for insane mechanical prowess like Insec, nor was he known for insane forward pressure like Dandy or Peanut. Ambition and Jankos were arguably better gankers if we're looking at entire careers. Clearlove's often seen as a good team fighter and KDA player who got on teams with better carries, like Wei Xiao, Deft, or Scout. But leaving WE made that reputation worse, since it made him a villain in League's largest region. But reputation rarely tells the full truth. Clearlove switched to heavy ganking, aggressive styles at different points in his career. Like in 2015, regularly targeting bot lane to give Deft the lead he needed to carry. Clearlove would have high kill participation percentages in the playoffs where his team succeeded. He led in KDA in the 2014 and 2015 spring playoffs, and rather than being a brute force carry, Clearlove excelled due to his intelligence. He was good at reading the map, the vision, and the enemy's win condition, then responding with a perfect counter. As easy as that may sound, EDG could never find a jungler that did it like Clearlove. Even when he was way past his prime in spring 2019, the team needed him to sub in to help right the course. In a way, Clearlove and Bengi shared flaws, but Clearlove has shown that he can be the heart and soul of a team in a way that Bengi hasn't. That's in no small part due to Clearlove's leadership and experience, 2 huge intangibles. Given that Clearlove was never too flashy and never did well at Worlds, putting him in the top 5 is definitely controversial. But he's one of the game's best counter strategists, team fighters, and defensive players. Plus, he's also got a strong argument for being the LPL's most successful player. Results aren't everything. As our number 4 pick will show, up until 2018, Uzi was infamous for his empty trophy case. Even then, his results were decent. He had back-to-back second-place finishes at Worlds and 3 second-place LPL finishes in a row. Like Clearlove, Uzi took a lot of criticism for only playing one style. Uzi loved to bully the other bot laner that required his team playing around him to ensure he didn't get chain ganked into oblivion. Uzi needed resources in the form of gold and ganks. In any tournament he was in, he regularly made the top 5 in terms of either gold share or CS share after 15 minutes. But the flip side was, if you gave him those resources, he also regularly made top 5 in terms of damage per minute. Not to mention, he had literally unrivaled laning prowess. Uzi could consistently dominate bot lane and generate a ton of pressure for his team. He wasn't just a top 5 ADC in the world throughout his career. He was top 3 or top 1. No other player on this list can claim that. While he was individually skilled, for a long time, Uzi wasn't so great a teammate. He was young, easily tilted, and required a lot of direction in and out of game. There were also reasonable questions around his own style holding his team back. It wasn't until he played with Xiaohu that he proved any of this wrong. In 2017 and 2018, he showed more growth in his style and person, becoming a better shot caller, leader, and supporting player as well. Even still, Uzi doesn't quite have the results many others in the top 10 do. He won just 2 domestic titles and an MSI. It's honestly remarkable not only that he makes it up this high, but that it wouldn't be unreasonable to put him even higher. Uzi was just that good. In fact, it feels like sacrilege to put another ADC above Uzi, especially one understated as Deft. Like Clearlove, Deft suffers from never looking like a dominant player. In best ofs, it's easy to rank by feel. Uzi, Rookie, Imp, The Shy, these dominant players feel more indomitable at their heights. And yes, the only time that Deft may have truly been dominant was in 2015 on EDG. Aside from then, Deft has been less about duo lane outplays and more about raw damage output. He's one of the best team fighters ever, capable of pumping out damage at an insane rate, pretty much regardless of team, meta, or champion. He'll do damage whether or not he has a lead or got stomped in lane. He can always be the team's win condition, as he was in EDG. Or he can be the secondary threat, like on Samsung Blue or on DRX right now. He had the highest damage per minute in Worlds 2014, the highest damage per minute of any ADC in MSI 2015, the highest damage share in Worlds 2016, the third highest in 2015, and the highest again in 2018. And he does it all with unshakable consistency. Deft has not had a bad year since his rookie season in 2013. That's something that no other player on this list can say. Make no mistake, he has had his fair share of disappointing losses, like getting swept by Fnatic at Worlds, or missing playoffs in 2019 summer and falling just one game shy of completing a huge gauntlet run. But after 2013, he's only missed playoffs once in his career. And once he's there, he's only gotten below third place twice. He has won 2 LPL and 2 LCK championships, as well as an MSI. He's the only player in history to get 1,000 kills in both the LPL and LCK. And he recently broke 1,500 kills in the LCK, only trailing Uzi in terms of total kills. The main 2 points against Deft are that he's never made it to finals at Worlds, and he's never been on super teams that haven't gotten as far as they should have. However, some of Deft's losses were a little unlucky. Drawing Invictus Gaming in quarterfinals in 2018, running into an insanely improved Samsung in 2017, and of course, getting Samsung White in the World semifinals. Even with those bad moments, it's pretty nuts how good Deft's career has been. He may be controversial at number 3, but he should be somewhere in your top 10. Now that we're down to the last 2, you could probably guess both names, but we'll save you the trouble. Inarguably the best support of all time, Mata changed the game a few times over. He's played for the biggest teams alongside the biggest names and managed to keep up. Mata has won 3 LCK titles on 3 different teams and an LCK title on top of a Summoner's Cup. And what you see on screen isn't even the half of it. Mata might just have the strongest intangibles of any player on the list. He brought great shot calling and strategic direction to any team that he touched, going so far as to take an Uzi-less RNG from 9th place to 1st place to topping the group stage at MSI. Mata's mentality deserves credit too. Yes, his mechanics did slip during his time on RNG, and he brought himself back up to form on KT. Mata's worst moments were his ill-fated VT Gaming tenure and his disappointing gradual replacement on SKT. On the other hand, his best moments were much bigger. He surprised everyone by destroying entire teams with his Zyra at Champions 2013. He dominated the globe at Worlds 2014 with his roams and vision control. He unseated a powerhouse EDG while playing with 3 novice players in 2016. And then he returned to Korea and smacked down the youngins on Griffin, 2 finals in a row on 2 different teams. As a player, Mata hasn't always been great at micro, sometimes letting his skills slip. He has long had a flaw of making small but crucial mistakes in teamfights. He may be the best support in a historical sense, but over his long career, there have been several times where other supports play better than him. But Mata makes up for it by being incredibly versatile and willing to play many different styles of support, and by being a strategic linchpin and solid foundation any team to build upon. And when his micro and macro are on point, he comes close to being unstoppable. And now for number 1. Is there truly any argument here? Honestly, do we even need to talk about it? Even after losing to G2 twice in 2019 and a much worse 2018, even after all of that, Faker is still the best. Faker has been a transcendent talent since his debut in Korea. Plucked from solo queue, he has been called the unkillable Demon King of League. He's won 2 MSIs, 3 Summoners Cup, and a whopping 9 LCK trophies. There simply isn't anyone who has come close to Faker yet. Uzi comes close to being as important as Faker to a team, potentially carrying harder than Faker at points. Perkz may become more domestically dominant than Faker. Deft might be slightly more consistent. Mata might offer slightly better intangibles. But even if any of them beat Faker in one category, he outshines them on the whole. A League of Legends top 10 list will be controversial and open for debate at every number except one. That is Faker's number. Yet, given time, the Demon King might fall from the throne. The world is full of hungry, young players, and there's so much more League to be played. In the next few years, who do you think will climb onto the top 10 list? Is there anyone who could dethrone Faker anytime soon? Let us know your answers in the comments, and if you're upset that someone didn't make it into the top 10, don't take it personally, just give us your own top 10s. You might be surprised to find just how hard it is to fit the immense amount of talent League has into just 10 spots.
Faker, what was that?